Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nic unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Howdy, Coxie.
G'day, Waz. How are you this fine day? I still haven't figured out something to say there, sorry.
I'm great, and it's not fine.
No, it's not fine here either. But I've got no idea what it's like outside when our listeners are actually listening to this little pot of gold that we've put together for them here today.
I know. I feel like sometimes I'm in a bit of a bunker in my office because I have this beautiful big glass sliding door, this double pane glass sliding door that looks out onto our paddocks and the bush block. And I have my curtains drawn because otherwise the sun, when it does shine, is so glary I can't see my computer screen. So I have this fabulous view that I can't look at. I really should do something about that, Coxie.
I think you should. That should be the next investment of time that you put into your house.
I should change something, shouldn't I?
I was waiting for it. You should change something, Warwick.
G'day, listeners. Thanks for tuning in. Tradies in Business podcast. There are some fantastic long-time listeners of the show. We really appreciate your ear holes. So I just want to say thank you, Coxie, to our listeners who continue to listen and continue to drop the odd message in to say, hey, guys, great episode. We really love getting feedback. Not everybody likes feedback, but we do like it, critical or otherwise. It's not always a bad thing to give us some critical feedback. I could probably use some sometimes. So
good.
Hello to all the long-time listeners, and if you're a new listener to the show, g'day to you too. Great to have you with us. We hope you're finding some value here on the podcast. And today's episode, Coxie, is brought to you by the great folks at Tradies in Business.
They're a pretty awesome couple of people, those people. I like them.
And they support this podcast by having a free Facebook group. This is our
this is a real ad roll
plug. Yeah. But you know those annoying ad rolls you hear in other podcasts, listeners? Well, this is one of them, except we're going to plug our own stuff, not someone else's stuff, because we're actually really proud of the 2,000 plus trade business owners that are members of the Tradies in Business Facebook group. It's a great group. There's some fantastic conversations that happen in there. And we would love for you to be a part of it if you haven't found it yet. As I said, if you're new to the podcast or if you're new to Tradies in Business, head on over to what was it called this morning in one of our Tradiepreneur sessions? I can't remember what term was used for the Book of Faces, but head on over to good old Facebook, go to the groups area and just type in Tradies in Business. We are the only group with that name. You can apply to join because we do screen applicants to the group and make sure that they're legit tradies. So we will stalk your profile. And then you're in and you can chat to a whole bunch of other awesome business people who have the same problems as you, who have made some changes, experienced some wins, and you can get some great information and perspective in there. You can test some of your ideas in there as well before you go to market with them with your customers. So go and join the Tradies in Business Facebook group. Now, back to the show.
I feel like we need a little jingle.
So, look, we're talking change, we're talking business, we're talking hard stuff today, Coxie. We're talking struggle. What else can we jam into today's unscripted and unplanned episode?
I just think anything that's hard goes with business, and I think we probably don't acknowledge that enough.
I feel like, Nicole, that there is a tendency for people to shy away from things they think are hard or risky.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with you. Hungy.
We're both too old to use that term.
Yes, we are.
And I I find it disappointing and challenging because I see a lot of people let themselves be held back or miss out on great opportunities because they think hard is bad.
Mm.
They think hard is to be avoided. They think risk should be avoided. And we talked about social media earlier, and we definitely use the platform, hopefully for good, if that's at all possible. If anything good can come of social media, other than cats on robotic vacuum cleaners dressed as sharks. That's the best thing that's ever happened on the internet, I think.
I saw a pig on a vacuum cleaner just the other day. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. One of those little miniature pigs.
Isn't that cruelty to animals?
No, he
Is that
looked pretty happy
exploiting
about
an
it.
animal?
No, he was pretty happy about it.
Interesting social rabbit hole there. But anyway, we'll save that one for drinks this afternoon.
Please.
So back on track. Please, Coxie, get us back on track. People missing out on opportunity and wonderfulness because, look, I'm just going to say it, because of some bullshit stories they not only tell themselves, but they tell the people around them like it's true.
They become truisms.
Oh,
you tell yourself anything enough, it becomes a truism.
Yes. Do you have
Doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Do you have any favourites, Coxie? Truisms?
Oh, myself, I'm not good enough.
Oh, okay.
I'm not enough of insert thing here. That shows up for me a lot. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of being treated better. Oh, sounds so dramatic, doesn't it? Or I'm not worthy of the money, or I'm not worthy of the holiday or the thing that I'm aspiring towards. That shows up for me a fair bit. I think that's probably pretty common.
It is. I'm not going to share any of mine because they're really shit.
Why?
Now that you've just gone and bared all, Coxie. No, mine look very similar. I think they often come from similar places of that, I'm not enough syndrome that a lot of us seem to have. My stuff is often centered around the huge lessons I've had in life around relationships and money and business. And I've had some incredibly high-priced business lessons over the years. The price tag had way too many zeros on it for my comfort levels. I could have had about 4 or 5 university degrees for the amount of money I have flushed down the toilet in business over the years. And yet it's what actually has made me such a great business mentor and coach, and able to ask those awful probing questions that our clients squirm in their chairs over. And I see you do this to people too, Nicole.
I do. Sorry.
Sorry. And some amazing stuff comes out of that. And I couldn't ask some of those tough questions and probe quite so well if I hadn't had those hard, scary experiences. And a lot of them came because I took risks.
We had an interesting conversation around this lesson learning, I think, in a previous podcast with one of our guests, and we differed in opinion a little, which isn't unusual. And the point I was making at the time is sometimes you need to learn the hard way for it to become the concrete lesson you needed to move out of a space that you were continually perpetuating. And so all of my really hard learned lessons that have had far too many zeros or cost relationships or have fractured other parts of my life have been because I didn't listen to the little lessons that were being shown to me many times beforehand. And so it needed to be the big, hard, horrible lesson for me to finally stop, take stock and make the change that was necessary. I think the thing that we forget, though, as human beings, we have the power around when we choose to listen to the lesson. We actually have a choice in do we go bankrupt? You actually were told many, many times prior to going bankrupt that you were going to go bankrupt in one form or another because you weren't looking at your cash flow forecast, because you weren't projecting the next 3 months to see where the holes might come, because you weren't managing your team or your time effectively, or 5 million other things that is telling you consistently that you're going to run out of money. You've actually been told that a long, long way back, but you didn't change your patterns. And because you didn't change your patterns, you fall into that big hole where the hard lesson is. But as business owners and as humans, we have the ability to make that choice at any point in time.
Yes. And
We don't have to wait.
so the yes and for me on that, and this is a bit of a slight twist on, or not a twist, it's like an extra bit of Tabasco sauce.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah. To that previous podcast you reference and the number of conversations we've had here on the show, is so many of us then tell ourselves a bullshit story to justify our shitty behavior. And by shitty behavior, I mean behavior that's not serving us. It's not getting us the results that we at least say we want from business, life, relationships. And so we keep doing these things that aren't serving us. They're not getting us the results that we want, that we desire. And so because deep down, I think most of us know that it all comes down to me, not me. Like, it's not my fault, listeners, that you're not getting what you want. Although you probably would like to be able to blame me or someone else. Fault. Yeah, well, it could be.
We could make that happen if you like.
Yeah. But I think deep down we know that it comes down to the person in the mirror.
Yes.
And that's really uncomfortable. And so what so many of us do is, rather than look that person in the eyes in the mirror and say, oi, I've got you in my sights, I'm going to change what's going on here. What we do is we come up with a shit story to justify our dumb decisions, or however you want to define that, listeners. And then we go and tell that story to others, because that's what we do as humans. We're storytellers. We share information and knowledge and beliefs and values through stories. And so we go and tell these bullshit stories to other people to give them credence, to give them validity, and to make them true. So then we can go, see, they believe me, therefore it must be true. And I see this happen with all sorts of things on social media, especially because it gives us a huge window into human behavior and thinking on a global scale, where something starts as a bullshit story and 2 weeks later it's true. You know, chemtrails. It's true, Coxie.
Of course it's true.
Now, I don't know if it is
from the
or
very beginning.
Isn't, right?
No,
but
that's my point.
Exactly. But a lot of us know to take things that are going around social media and maybe fact check, right? There's whole websites like Snopes and all these sorts of websites devoted to myth busting and fact checking some of the truisms, as you said earlier, Coxie, that fly around the internet. And yet in our own lives, we have these truisms, what I prefer to call bullshit stories, that we don't actually stop and fact check before we charge off down the path of you can't get good staff these days.
That's a truism that is becoming very loud at present. It's a conversation we see everywhere, whether it be in the groups or with our clients. And there was a truism recently around pay rate.
Yeah.
For a staff member that we challenged quite firmly.
It's expensive.
And how expensive is it, though, not to get the staff member in place and lose all the work?
And yet it just gets accepted as being fact. And I see conversations happening online where people make these statements like they're fact. There's scientific fact that I don't know, you name it, can't get good staff. Customers won't pay for quality these days. People won't pay COD. They won't pay on invoice. Just won't happen.
What about the personal stories we're telling ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about those stories that we tell ourselves about being a business owner? I'm just never going to have time. There's just not enough time in a day.
I've
I'm
got
just
too
not
much
really good at
going on.
leading people.
Yeah.
Those things that we make real about ourselves, because the brain is an amazing tool that believes whatever you think.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you think will become true for you very, very quickly. There are tools to create change in that, but that's hard. And as humans, we tend to shy away from the hard. We don't like it. It's not comfortable. It feels like a pineapple. It's not a great space to play in. And yet it's in the hard that you break through the fear, because comfort's just fear. I've had this conversation so many times in the last few weeks. Comfort is just fear keeping you down. It's keeping you in a space, preventing you from going out and trying something uncomfortable that might actually give you the growth to make the change. I think that we grow up thinking that comfort is a good thing. And in my mind, at the very least, I can't see how comfort is good for anyone. You get stuck. It holds you back.
I feel like it's a bit of a modern change, Coxie, and I'm going to sound like a cranky old middle-aged greying man, middle class, saying, back in my day. I do recall growing up, because I can remember back that far. I do recall growing up, and the pendulum can swing too far the other way, like anything. My family, particularly on my dad's side, were quite poor. Big family, no money, alcoholism, violence, poverty, struggle, Western Sydney, and life was actually tough. You've got teenage, like preteen boys collecting mushrooms and hunting for rabbits and stuff to feed the family, because my grandfather was a lifelong alcoholic, and while he worked, it wasn't enough because times were pretty tough in the 30s and 40s. So that set some pretty strong beliefs, particularly amongst the men in my family, uncles, around the fact that life is hard, life is a struggle. And yet I think that actually set them up to be somewhat okay with the grind and the struggle of life. And they just went and did it because, well, that's how life is. Now, as I said, the pendulum can swing too far the other way, and they couldn't see that there was any other way. And, I've talked a little bit about my dad being one of those brothers and how that actually prevented him from ever experiencing anything other than struggle. And so everything was a struggle until, he couldn't actually take any more of it. So I think modern day, though, those same people, that same generation has recognized how crap that was to always be struggling. And so unfortunately, swing the pendulum the other side for their kids and their kids' kids now, struggle is seen as a negative thing. If something's hard, that's bad. You should avoid that. We have this modern society. We should always be comfortable. We've got air-conditioned cars and homes and little walkways to get between the air-conditioned home and the car, so we don't have to be outside. Everything is about comfort and convenience and just all cosseted in this beautiful fairy floss marshmallow cloud that we all float around in. And then when something is actually hard, we don't have the resilience to deal with it.
It's a great word, resilience. And I want to throw something at you, and you can think on the fly because you're pretty good at that anyway. Why is this different? So I agree with you, and I see that it is true, or I recognize that it happens in most sections of the community, and the sporting section would be the one that I say is very different, and I'd like to know why. Kids are brought up, I see kids, how heavily involved. I've been in football for many, many years now, and my nephew has just made it into a state team for football, and it's accepted that that's going to be a struggle. It's accepted that you have to train your literal guts out on the side of the field to get where you need to be in that position. And when you look into the professional ranks, it's accepted that it's going to be hard. It's accepted that it will hurt. It's accepted that there will be loss and frustration and success. That's all part of success. So in that big segment of our community, I see that they see it very differently than most of the general public, perhaps. And I don't understand why.
One of our tradiepreneurs put this pretty well the other day, and he talked about the fact that he has done that in his life with sport. He's put in the hard yards and done the training, and actually I remember who it was, but I'll keep going with the story because you're remembering who this is. The sentiment is the same, and yet in business hasn't always brought that same approach to business. And the thing that really nailed it in what he said was it was about the goal and the perception of the goal. And for me, that's where I think the juice is in sport. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that it's a healthy idolization of sports people that we have, and this we hold sporting people and celebrities still, even post COVID, we still hold those people in a certain light that I don't necessarily believe is justified, and yet it happens, and that's okay, and yet we don't have the same reverence and fervor for successful business people. In fact, in Australia, it still appears to be quite the opposite, where if someone's succeeded in business and has made great money and they've created this amazing, built this team and a company and products and solved all these amazing problems and provided solutions and joy and everything to customers, they're actually considered to be greedy bastards and wankers and selfish and everything else. Like
good old tall poppy syndrome.
And yet some of the nation's sports people get paid a lot more than CEOs and business owners, and yet they're all held out to be heroes. So cultural comments aside, I think it's about the goal, Coxie. We see that, winning the NRL grand final or the Australian Open tennis, that is seen as this amazing goal and achievement. And so it's worth 20 years of your life training at 4 a.m. every day to maybe have the chance of getting to that. And yet, sadly, we don't hold the same passion for 20 years of your life going into a business, building systems and working on your personal growth and your leadership and everything else to have something that is a true legacy for your family and your community that might be a $10 million business that can donate money and facilitate programs for underprivileged kids and, feed the homeless and do all the sort of amazing stuff that great businesses can do. How's that?
I wonder how much that was all right. You did okay.
You did all right? You go all right.
It was all right.
Thanks, Coxie.
I wonder how much sharing it as a team contributes to your drive to get where you want to go.
Please explain.
Please explain. I know that personal goals can be really challenging to achieve. But if your personal goal is set about in a team aspect, so you and I share business goals. My husband and I share personal goals, family goals, life goals. Kids in sport teams share the goal of the grand final with their coach and their teammates, etc. I wonder if those business owners that gather themselves in a community with like-minded business owners and they're all striving for similar goals feel supported and elevated enough that there's enough importance then on that goal for it to be the thing that makes some of the change so that they can move forward rather than getting stuck in the mindset of it's hard. It's the community that reminds them when it's hard. Yes, it is hard, and there's a way forward. There's a way to do this. There's a way to fix this. There's a way to look at it differently or to make that change. I wonder how important that community support becomes, because as you and I know, when we speak to trade business owners, without fail, every single time they think they are alone.
Yeah.
They think they are the only ones that have invoices that are 3 months old they still haven't sent out. They think they are the only ones that don't know which figures to look for to do a cash flow projection. They think they are the only ones that are struggling to get good staff. They think that they are the only ones that have to stay up all night, every weeknight, trying to get the invoices out and do the quotes and catch up on phone calls. They feel like they're the only ones. And very quickly do they learn that they're not alone. There's so many tradies that feel alone when we start to bring them together in a community and they start to share, that they realize, oh, I'm not alone. And there is a way to get out of this funk, this tight spot that I've found myself in. There is a way through that, and I don't have to do it alone. And I wonder whether that creates enough of a change for most to then start to move through those hard times or the stuck times or the fearful times, push through the fear, because as you rightly pointed out this morning, fear never goes away. It will still be there. It's embracing the fear and using that to fuel the fire to fight the tiger or whatever it is that you need to fight in your business.
That's
your paperwork pile.
Probably feels like a tiger attacking you sometimes in business.
I think it does. I really do. I think when we become so comfortable with not knowing some things, then looking at it and understanding we have to learn about something to tackle it can feel like fighting a tiger. Literally, it can make your heart race. It can make you sweat. It can stop you from sleeping at night. It can make you so fearful that you just don't do the thing. And yet, as we talk about all the time, when, just having that understanding, working through that fear can create an abundance of, I don't want to say comfort because I don't think it's comfort, but it's just moving to that next space where you've been able to work on the stuff, make some change, so you never have to be in that discomfort again.
One of our clients described it this morning in a session as mental fitness. And I think there's business fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Just as there is physical fitness, mental fitness, emotional fitness. And I think business fitness requires all of those aspects. You look at a decathlete, so that's 10 events, hence the decathlete. Anyway, so they're the ones that do, running and javelin and, long jump and shooting and all sorts of stuff all in the same event. They have to have this broad suite of skills and levels of fitness across all these different domains. And business requires more than just fitness to drive the ball forward and take the tackle and, do something on the footy field. That requires mental toughness and a level of emotional fitness as well, of course. G'day to all the footy players out there who train more than just their quads. Geez, I wish I had the quads of some of those football players.
They're pretty impressive. Let's not forget the chest and the arms.
Yeah,
and
okay. All right.
we can go.
We're back there, Coxie.
I can.
Yeah.
No, all right.
Do you want a glass of water?
No.
But business requires fitness almost across the board. You actually have to have a level of physical fitness. You've got to have the sleep and the nutrition sorted. You've got to have the mental toughness and resilience. You've got to have the emotional fitness. You've got to be, intellectually fit. You've got to be able to interpret your numbers and solve problems. You've got to be fit in your communication. I mean, there's so many aspects of business ownership and building a great business that demands so much of business owners. As to why that's not celebrated and coveted more, I don't know. I think perhaps it's just to do with our culture in society. It's just not seen as a big enough prize. And yet I think winning the premiership is so much more selfish because that's only about the team and the players and maybe the coaching staff. and there's a little bit of rub off euphoria for the partners and friends. But a great business, as I alluded to earlier, feeds families, it supports communities, it puts money into local townships, into school systems. I mean, we hate paying taxes, and yet a great business pays a lot of tax, and that funds free healthcare for a lot of Australians. It puts money into retirement schemes. I mean, business is what actually supports the society that we enjoy here, particularly in Australia and New Zealand. And yet,
And trade business is right at the top of that tree.
bingo. And yet it's not, we're not okay to be okay with our goal of building a great business. And therefore we don't have the connection and drive towards that.
I agree, and I think you nailed it. Well, you skirted around it a little bit, maybe because it's a little bit controversial. But I do think that we have a problem with the culture around success in our country. I really do. I feel like success here, unless it's on the sporting field, is very much frowned upon. And until we start to change the narrative around that and find people who have the same sort of headspace as us, who are ready for success, that are happy to do what it takes to get where they need to be within reason. We all have to bring to the table our own set of values that we won't cross over to get to the success point. You and I have a great shared set of values that gets us where we need to be every single week. And I feel like when you surround yourself with like-minded people, it does become a different culture. We change the culture around success, and we can start to celebrate those points. And I think it's something that we consciously need to start doing if we want to make the big change to have that successful business. And success, I don't really like the word success, because I think that everybody thinks success is winning the grand final or being a multimillionaire or owning a helicopter, and it's not. Success for you, Mr. or Mrs. Listener, may be as simple as ensuring all your invoices get out this week. That might be success for you. And that's great. That should be celebrated. That means there'll be food on the table for your family. That means that you will be able to pay those bills that you've been worrying about. That's a very great success point. And I think until we start to embrace the points of success for every single business owner, the culture around it won't change.
It's a really interesting rabbit hole to go down, Nicole, and it's one that I feel more of us need to face up to or front up to, because it is keeping you, listeners, from charging off after your goals like a front row footy player going for the try line. I mean, that's the level of energy and power that if you brought that to your business, to your to-do list every day, what could you achieve? Imagine if you surrounded yourself with a team of pumped up business owners that were all like doing the pre-game huddle in the change room, ready to go out and, cross the hockey sticks and smash the ball into someone else's goal net. Not their face, Coxie. I don't know what you were thinking.
Well, I did think you were going there.
Man, I've got some female friends who play field hockey, and they've had some horrendous injuries, eh? Teeth knocked out, smashed legs, like
noses.
Crazy. Anyway, their husbands are very meek and mild. I don't understand why.
I don't have a clue.
Do the dishes, man, or I'll get the hockey stick out. But, imagine if you surrounded yourself with a team like that and an energy like that. What could you achieve in your trade business? And cue ad roll, Coxie.
I know. I was thinking, are you going to do this or am I going to do it? No, you beat me to it, the bugger.
You can talk about it, please, Coxie.
Look, if you're ready to be surrounded by awesome tradies who are excited about success, who are ready to do the hard work and are currently doing the hard work. We've had a session with our tradiepreneurs this morning, and man, they're doing some hard work, but they're doing it with support, with backing, There were rah-rahs and cheer-ups and slaps on the back today. It was awesome. And if you're ready for a bit of that in your life, it's time to book a call with Warwick and I. Let's have a bit of a chat. Let's make sure this is going to fit for you. Let's make sure that you are as excited and ready to be on the team as every other member of the team. You can do that by just popping over to the website, tradiesandbusiness.com.au, and you will find book a chat button all over the place. We've put that sucker everywhere, so you can't miss it. Go and find the button, press the button, fill in the details, choose a day, and you're away. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about what your success could look like. It can be big. But wait, there's more.
Oh, no, there could be less. You could tell yourself a bullshit story that it's too expensive, too confronting. Nothing's going to help anyway. You've heard it all before. You name it. You name the bullshit story that you could tell yourself. Or you could do exactly as Coxie has said. You've got a hockey stick, haven't you, Nicole?
You know I do.
You got a pineapple. You could do what Coxie was talking about and have an informal chat with us for free. And what's your greatest risk? That there's some things you could do to actually change. So head over to the website, click the button, book a chat with us. We love to meet trade business owners.
We do.
And if we don't end up working together, that's totally cool too. You just get to have a chat to Waz and Nic.
It's not terrible.
Scary.
We're a bit of fun, really.
I like chatting to us.
That's good. We do it an awful lot.
I know. All right. So BS stories, they can come from ourselves. They can come from our community. They come from our society and our culture, but they're still bullshit stories.
They are.
And if we give them truth, if we allow them to be true, because this is the thing, the stories are there. And as you said earlier, Coxie, I think you languaged this perfectly. We have the power to choose as humans, and we have the power to choose whether we make those stories true or call them out, call out the person in the mirror, bad hair and everything.
Speak for yourself.
And come on, there's a lot of product in this hair. And actually choose a different set of actions today. And change the story, rewrite the story.
Choose your hard.
Pineapple. We should have called ourselves like Golden Circle in business or something.
The Pineapple King and Queen. Hey, we've had a few of our own pineapples this week, and sometimes we all need them.
That's why I'm standing up to record this episode, Coxie.
Oh, dear. Look, if you are one of those first-time listeners, you're going to have to go back a bit to figure out the whole pineapple thing.
Yeah.
It's referenced in nearly every episode. I'm sure you can find it.
You know what? If you don't know what we're on about with the pineapple thing, I dare you, go book a 15-minute chat with us and we'll explain that to you, if nothing else. Thank you for listening. We love having you here on the show. If you've listened to this and it's sparked anything in you, book a chat, as we've said, or join the free Facebook group, or just go and grab a couple of the free downloads from the website. There's some info there you can grab for free. So there's a number of ways you can make some change and start writing a different story. Hope you have a fantastic day, whatever day of the week you're listening to this. I guarantee it ends in Y, and I guarantee we'll have another episode for you soon.
Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesandbusiness.com.au.